Good morning, everyone. In a special way, I want to extend to our anniversary couples my sincerest congratulations. In our parish, we have this yearly now anniversary Mass to recognize those that have achieved those 5-year increments. And so we have couples here that have been married 10 years, 15, 20, 25, all the way up to 70 years married. We have before us, believe it or not, and it took the calculator on my iPhone to figure this out, 1,200 years of marriage represented here before us. But I must say that I'm particularly inspired by Betty and Regis here in front. Betty and Regis Doherty are the ones that are married 70 years. And I'm inspired not only by all of our couples, but particularly by them, because it helps me be faithful to my vocation and also inspires me to at least get to 70 years old. So I want to get at least that much life in. You know, there's many people that will give you advice on how to have a good, strong marriage, right? I'm sure you've all heard many of them. I don't know if you've heard this bit of advice. How to have a strong marriage? Well, it's important that couples visit a nice restaurant twice a week. Have some good food and take a leisurely walk home. She should go on Tuesday and he should go on Friday. So, but seriously, in the years that I've been a priest, it's just 21, I've been a part of married lives in many ways, helping couples to prepare for marriage, assisting couples as they face difficulties in their marriage, and getting to know their lives, and some of you even here before us, in a good personal way. And I think I have discovered the secret to a long-lasting, strong marriage. You know, I find that in those conversations, the difficulties among married couples is not so much the difficulties over money, although they do exist. At times, couples struggle with a lack of communication. They disagree over how to raise or discipline their children. Unfortunately, sometimes there are moments and acts of infidelity that plague a marriage. But those things, as serious as they might be, are actually symptoms of a much deeper problem, but a problem that I think exposes the true secret to a lasting marriage. It seems to me that the fundamental problem in marriages, the difficulties, are all undergirded by a selfishness. Right? That's basically, people say, what's wrong with marriage? It's very simple. Selfishness. Because that's what's wrong with humanity. At the source of all of our sinfulness. We're all weak in that area. We all tend to be egocentric. And yet, that very thing kind of illustrates for us what the secret is for a lasting marriage. For selfishness is at the heart of difficulties and trials. It is that selflessness, that love of sacrifice, the love of the cross, that is the secret to a lasting marriage, isn't it? And I know enough of you to know that you are sitting here today precisely because you, with the grace of God, have been able to overcome that selfishness and given your lives over to the selfless love of God. You have been able to turn away from me and gone toward Him and us. Our readings today, I think, help illustrate this very important point. And actually, it's a lesson that we learn by way of two widows. In the first reading from the book of Kings, we meet a widow who's nameless. We just know that she is from the city of Zarephath. And she is collecting a few twigs so that she could make a small cake of bread, a little bit of water, and then she's convinced that because of the extreme famine and drought of her area, that she and her son are about to die. The prophet Elijah comes upon this widow and asks something from her. At the very moment of her extreme need, this representative from God dares to ask her for something. But what does she do? Does she become selfish, self-centered, refuse to give? No. She is willing to give the bit of water and make that little bit of bread, not only for herself, her son, but also for the prophet Elijah. She has faith in Elijah's promise that if she is generous, the jug of oil will not run dry, or the jug of flour go empty. She's generous. She gives. And then in our gospel, it's our Lord who points out another widow in the temple who stands before the treasury. She had followed all these rich people who were giving in loads of money from their surplus. And she throws in a few coins. But our Lord, being God, knows her intimately and knows that she has given all she had, our Lord says, her whole livelihood. She's taken the risk to love God, to be generous, and to give. Now, back to marriage. Do you see what these widows can teach us? And teach us all. Not only how to remain faithful to marriage, but whatever our vocation might be. And to be a faithful Christian means generosity. That generous love of the cross. The first generosity, of course, is our generosity to God. Be generous to Him, my dear couples. Be generous to Him, and you will find that God, who is pure giving, God, who is pure gift, the God who, as our second reading said, is the high priest that has sacrificed himself to bring salvation to those who eagerly await Him, that God will never let your jug run dry. You know, statistically, we are assured that those couples that really put God at the center of their life and are generous to Him, when they are living their faith each and every day, praying together, coming to Mass or the religious service on a weekly basis, that really put faith first in their life, have at least a 25 to 35% decrease in the divorce rate. At least that. There is, with that one factor alone, a significant drop in unfaithfulness and increase in faithfulness. Be generous to God is a secret to a lasting marriage. But then also, you know this very well, my dear couples. You have to be generous with each other, don't you? Looking for the cross and embracing it in those little moments in your life. There you found Christ, and you sit before us to celebrate an anniversary. Each day, making those small acts of self-sacrifice that might even mean just getting up on time and getting things ready. It could be that small act of love and affection that after a few years can begin to wane in a marriage. And that a married couple needs to kind of renew and reinvigorate in their life. Those little acts of love and affection. Those little words of compliment and not criticism. Here is that generosity that makes a good, lasting, stable marriage. Giving in to the opinion of the other, especially in matters that ultimately aren't going to matter so much. Learning to think of the other before yourself. Being used to saying, "You're right," and "I'm wrong." Or saying, and here's a hard one, "I'm sorry." Trying to come up together with a common approach to raise and discipline your children or grandchildren. Caring for one another, especially in those later years when we are bogged with the yoke of physical and sometimes mental difficulties. The secret to a long and lasting marriage is really our Lord on that cross. Your marriage increases and deepens in the very measure that you give yourself away. Now, I read recently a story about a couple that actually have Regis and Betty beat by 8 years. A couple that was married 78 years. And several months ago, they were interviewed. Wilbur and Teresa Face were asked, "What is it that makes a marriage last?" And Wilbur, answering for the both of them, said this. He said, "Every day, ask her how she feels. And is there anything I can do for you?" Most of the time, Wilbur said, be the one who says, "I apologize, dear. You're right." And say, "Honey, I still love you." That couple has discovered how to be generous to God and to each other. And it sounds to me like they have found the secret to a strong marriage and a lasting one. And I would propose that generosity to God and that self-sacrifice to each other is really the secret for all of us for a happy, long life.